Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast in a week in wrestling in which we've had signings, firings, rehirings, and that's just one wrestler we're going to talk about. There's a wrestler leaving the WWE. There's someone going to be fired from TNA this week. Obviously, we're hitting the Royal Rumble. And of course, has AJ Styles' retirement been spoiled already? We'll get into all that and a lot more with me, your host, Adam Cousins. Now, conspicuous by his absence this week, my co host, the quote unquote problem child, Dave Robinson, has got a family emergency, so he can't join us this evening. But I say us because I do have two people coming on board this evening to talk this week in wrestling from our good friends at bodyslam.net. It is, of course, J Star and Ty P. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, my man. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
We want to start off by saying we hope everything's all right with Dave and his family and everything that's going on there.
Yeah, thanks for that. He'll be back next week, I'm sure, because it's obviously Royal Rumble week. Tell you what, let's just start with that. I was going to do in the order that I run it off just then, but let's just start. Look, we are less than a week away from the Royal Rumble. If memory serves me right, it's the first one they've done internationally. Maybe they've done one in Canada, but let's in Saudi Arabia. So good for me in the UK because it's a nice time to watch it. But does the Royal Rumble, Ty, does the Royal Rumble for you still have that element of excitement to it?
Oh yeah, I love the Royal Rumble. It's fun because sometimes we know the direction they're going, and sometimes there can be a swerve. Right, last year, Jey Uso, John Cena, last two in the Royal Rumble, and we got to see a moment that I didn't think we'd ever see: is Jey Uso throwing John Cena over the top rope. Pushing him off the top, the outside to win the Royal Rumble. So I love it. I think it's a fun element of surprise. I do think, there are moments where the wrestlers do get lazy in there and you see them just like throwing some kicks and some punches. But overall, like how fast they push out the superstars, the surprises we get sometimes. I feel like the women get a lot more surprises than the men nowadays. But again, the roster's stacked, NXT stacked. We might see some TNA guys. I can guarantee Leon Slater will be showing up in this Royal Rumble. But yeah, it's fun. You kind of, it's the precipice to the road to Royal Rumble. To WrestleMania, and it all starts here. And yeah, I'm pumped up, man. Every time the Royal Rumble shows up, I'm excited.
And Jay, do you think, like, with it being in Saudi Arabia, is there an element of are they going to keep the surprises maybe to a minimum, as Tyler said with the NXT guys, or do you think they can still manage to get a few ones in there that we don't see?
You hope that because it's Saudi. I mean, the rumors are already about Saudi and their WrestleMania. They're willing to pay The Rock the most money ever to perform at WrestleMania in Saudi. Saudi's going to want something big. And so is WWE and TKO. This, like you said, is the first Royal Rumble internationally, maybe ever, unless there was one in Canada that is, we're not thinking about. I feel like there's a reason why that they're not announcing as many people declaring right now. Like by this time, we're a week out. Usually, we know around like 14 to 15 participants in the Rumble. I think we only know like 7, 6, 7, 8. So, I mean, just leave it at that. Like, I don't want to know anything else. I love the element of surprise. There's already names that are still being rumored, floated out there. Chris Jericho. There's several different names. Ty just mentioned Leon Slater. Some TNA guys might appear. Who knows? I want the less I know for the Royal Rumble, the absolute better, because that's what the Royal Rumble is all about, right? Is just those surprise entrances and the countdown 10, 9, 8, the crowd getting together and chanting until the buzzer goes off. I want more surprises, the better. I don't want to know anything. I don't want anyone else declaring. I don't want to know.
Yeah, no, me too. My friend at the I Love Wrestling podcast done a great way for Jericho to return to the Rumble. And it was so ridiculously, obviously, and stupid. I'm thinking, how didn't I think of it? He had the countdown. As you know, the countdown clock, it comes on. And it gets to 5, and then it hits and it goes into the Jericho, and then it goes into Break the Walls Down, and then streams into Fozzie's Judas. So he has both entrant, like both theme songs, a mixture. I was thinking, like, it was so obvious that why didn't people like myself think about it when they're talking about the Jericho one, as you mentioned there. But it is my favorite pay-per-view of the year. I have a podcast league going on, if I do. So I can't really predict, I can't tell you my prediction because I don't want to give it away because I've got people that sent me haven't declared yet their picks, so to speak. So J Star, right now, right on spin, as you said, there's not many people declared. Who's your men's and who's your women's winners of the Royal Rumble right now?
Well, I think I'm on record saying that my men's winner is Roman and my
Yeah.
women's winner is a returning Bianca Belair.
Mhm.
So I'm going to stick with those two. But before we get to ties, if there's a chance for Ty and I to still join up into this podcast prediction league, the 10 count podcast wants in. So if
Well,
there's still a chance, we're ready to take over the league.
well, we've had one show. We've had one predictions which was TNA's Genesis. So it's still, I can grow. I tell you what, let's do it. Let's do it right here, right now. I will add you to the group. I will tell the guys, late incoming people, 10 count podcast. You are now in, so I need your predictions. We're not doing like this week. We're not doing who's going to be a surprise. It's literally who's winning the men's, who's winning the women's, who's walking out as champion, like the champions of their respective matches that are on the show. That's all we're doing. So I'll add you after this and I'll tell the people. But you're at a slight disadvantage because you are going to be on 0 points, unfortunately. But doesn't mean we've got a whole year yet. But with that in mind, Ty P, who's your picks for the Rumble right now?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to do anything surprising. Justin and I kind of have the same idea of what's going to happen with the Royal Rumble. I do also agree Roman Reigns and Bianca Belair. I think Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill kind of writes itself. I think that'd be an awesome way for them to go head to head at WrestleMania. And I don't know, Roman seems just like an easy choice for this. I feel like they want him to be at the main event of WrestleMania. I think TKO wants that. They know he's a big draw. So that's where my mind's at. So I'm going to stick with those answers as well.
It's interesting with Roman because then does he go Punk or does he potentially go, well, assuming Drew walks in to WrestleMania, the champion, does he go for Drew? It's very interesting. Or Cody, if Cody wins it back by then, who knows? I mean, look, we've got Elimination Chamber still to go. We've still got SmackDowns still to go as well. But we'll leave the Rumble for now, but I'll get you guys added into the league. But we did have probably one of the best Saturday nights main events since it's brought it back. I mean, long back in the 80s when I was growing up, I know it was on every week, but since the reboot of Saturday night's main event, the one last night was probably the best one. Obviously, Sami Zayn walking out of the Fatal 4-Way as the #1 contender. But Typee, what was your overall view of last night? For me, as I said, probably one of the best ones they've done since the reboot.
I agree. It kind of kept you on your toes the whole time. I mean, to start off the event with just a brawl between Cody and Jacob Fatu, I was surprised at that. I didn't think that was the route they were going to go. I thought it was awesome, especially for how long they let the brawl go up the stadium, out in the outside, coming back in. I thought that was awesome, and then to continue with the was it the #1 contender match? No, it was the tag team title match for the women's, which was awesome. I mean, Judgment Day, Liv and Rhea going head to head is always fun to watch. They have great chemistry in the ring. And then AJ and Shinsuke putting on they are also, their chemistry is through the roof. So I loved it. It was so much fun. Like I said, I was kind of like on my toes the whole time watching it. It was action packed. It was fun. You didn't know who was coming out victorious in those matches, kind of besides, AJ and Shinsuke. You kind of had a feeling that AJ was going to win this one leading into this match at the Royal Rumble, but I absolutely loved it.
Jay, so do you think it's been a difficult one for me for WWE in 2025? I watched it, obviously I watch it every week. I do this, right? But like I found it difficult in some points. I felt like it was dropping down a little bit. Maybe I was a bit thingy with the ticket prices and stuff like that because it prices a lot of people out. So I was getting a bit, frustrated with it. But when I see a show like this last night, it takes, sometimes you come out and it just sucks you back in like a motherfucker. And that's how I felt last night. How did you feel about at the end of Saturday night's main event? Did it get you wanting to see Raw tomorrow night, for example?
Yeah, Ty and I had discussed, I was okay with the opening match. I was okay with them just brawling throughout the arena. Like the Bell Center, I've never been there, but I'm a huge hockey fan. As you could tell behind me,
Yeah.
the Bell Center is a legendary arena. Like the Montreal Canadian fans, they go hard and they love their hockey and their wrestling. And the fact that you had Cody and Jacob just right off the bat, just brawling through the arena, and then Drew coming out and power bombing both of them, like it just built up everything. And it tells you like you're in for a night. Like this Saturday night main event is going to be special. It's like buckle up, get ready, because then you have Stephanie Vakir returning. Yeah. Then you have Sami Zayn. They pulled the trigger on him, letting him become the number one contender in his home arena, in his home country. Unbelievable. Yeah, I cannot wait for Monday Night Raw tomorrow. I cannot wait.
It should be a real good one. I planted a seed a while ago. I said it was Cody that attacked Jacob. I know Jacob says it was Drew. Drew still does deny it. If they wanted to switch Cody, it'd be an easy one. They could have the security footage and see Cody run away. I don't know, something that I would look at doing if I was ever going to turn him heel. We'll get to Styles in a minute, and yes, that was it was a great throwback match between him and Nakamura. I really did enjoy, but we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But look, I mentioned at the start of the show there was a hiring, a firing, and a rehiring, and it was the same guy, and that guy is Trey Miguel. J Star, it got me annoyed. I got a bit annoyed because, like, obviously it turned out, or if you believed in the the rumors, it's a Warner Brothers decision to sort of remove Trey Miguel because of the stuff that he done years ago. It irks me a bit when I see this sort of stuff because it prevented Jay Briscoe from coming in as well. This was something that Trey Miguel done years ago. Do you not think, and I don't know, maybe I'm being too stupid or too sort of easy with this, that they could have done their research prior? Tony knew that he wanted to sign the Rascals. I know it was a quite quick thing. They were out of TNA, and in the next week they literally said, "Oh, they're coming to AEW." But do you not think due diligence should have been done in the background, and Warner Brothers saying, "Hey, you can sign the Rascals, but you can't sign Trey Miguel"?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, WB, obviously you just brought it up with Briscoe. Tony Khan fought to get the Briscoe to get him on TV, and it took him a while. So clearly, like, Tony loves the Rascals. You could tell it was quick to sign them, and he thought it was going to be fine. But then, you know, WB, the upper echelon, their TKO stepped in and said, "No, we're not having it." And you know, it is what it is. And you know, AMC, they're obviously fine with the past is the past, right? Like you have to live and learn. You learn from your mistakes. And for some reason, WB just has a tougher time with, you know, people's pasts. And it's you know, I don't know. It's not, I guess where I'm trying to get is Tony, I guess, should, if it's going to be an issue in the future, Tony has to say, "Hey, I'm looking to sign this guy," before he even signs the person. Because if it happens, you can't have it happen again. It was a disgrace. It was an absolute mess what happened with Trey Miguel.
Yeah,
I have a bit of a rant that I kind of want to go on with this, because I might take this a little down a nerdy path just because of DC and Warner Brothers properties and stuff like that. But this kind of pissed me off in the purpose of, this might be a little non-wrestling, but back when The Flash had the Flashpoint movie come back out in like 2022 or 23, whenever it was, Ezra Miller, who was the main actor of The Flash, went through, he was under burglary charges, I think assault charges, disorderly conduct, and they still pushed his movie out. So like, they've had people with past and recent past, mind you, that was 2 years prior and a year prior to that movie coming out, and still push forward with that content. So to me, it's kind of hypocritical that they didn't let Trey Miguel be on AEW TV, because they've done it before. They've had actors that have had past, and like I said, more recent past, still push movies out, and they were fine with it. So to me, it's a bad taste in my mouth for them to just throw that as their excuse to not have Trey Miguel on AEW TV.
Yeah, to be honest, when I read it, I was just like, what is, because it was weird because they'd done the collision skit and there was only 3 of them, and they never made a reference to the 4th person. And I was thinking, well, hang on a minute. And then there was, oh no, he couldn't make the tape in, and there was all that sort of stuff. And then this comes out. But ultimately, and after a couple of days there was a lot of silence, Trey Miguel then said, "I'm stepping away." And then he comes out and said, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, Feast on Fired on TNA this week, he comes back and returns, which was a really nice, obviously, is a great thing. I don't know how quick the deal come together, Tybee, but he come out and said he's taken a break from wrestling, and that break lasted about 24 hours. Do you think perhaps he could have given it just a little bit longer before he come out and said that? I know he could have just said he could have literally just pressed send on that tweet and then he could have got the call. But is there an element of saying give it a couple of days, let the smoke clear, and then kind of do it before this kind of stuff happens?
No, because he's emotional, right? Like you see
Yeah.
all your friends in your group go to AEW, and then you see that segment. There's only three of them. Of course, he has to make a comment, and at that point, he feels probably my group left TNA. I have no shot, I guess. No one wants me. I guess I'm done. And like, luckily for him, TNA wanted him back. And if he gets fired this week, who knows? I mean, there's still a possibility he might get hired. I'm kidding. I don't think that's going to happen. But I feel for him, man. He was down in the dumps. He just like wanted people to know where his stance was at. So I don't think so. The wrestling business is tough. You never know when you're gonna have a job or not, when you get fired, or reasons why you're not getting added to a certain roster. So yeah, I don't think he did anything wrong. I didn't think he was too proactive on that tweet. I think he just was in his feelings and kind of just let out what he was feeling to everyone.
Yeah, Jay, do you think? I mean, ultimately, in a way, this could work out very good for him because look, we know the AEW. I mean, that AEW roster is probably the most stacked roster in wrestling in terms of talent. And I don't know if AEW was going to think of doing a quad championship with four people, with four things. They've got a trios, they got a tag team. I didn't know if it was going to create another one for these four. But could it be a blessing in disguise for Trey Miguel because of the fact that they've got such a stacked roster? He can come back to TNA with a slightly lesser people on the roster and perhaps can make more of a quote unquote impact back on TNA.
Absolutely. And I think this is the best thing that could have possibly happened for TNA as a company. After the premiere, everyone was watching, eyes on the product, waiting to see what TNA was going to produce. And to be frank, there weren't many surprises. It was like an old episode of TNA. There really wasn't anything special to it. And the fact that they were able to, a week later, bring in a surprise in Trey Miguel where no one thought he was coming back. There was nothing out there about, like you said, Trey Miguel was stepping away from wrestling and boom, he's back on TNA wrestling. That is huge for TNA. It's a nice surprise. It's a nice get that they didn't think that they were going to have. And now he has one of the briefcases. I also don't think he's going to get fired. That would be one of the funniest things in the world, but I don't think it's happening. And now he has an opportunity. He's going to have one of those contracts for, the X Division Championship. Trey Miguel versus Leon Slater. Hello. Big money. I love it. I think it works great for him, and it works great for TNA as a whole.
Yeah, take my money for that one, TNA. However, we mentioned Feast and Fight, and TNA and production issues struck again. I don't know if you've seen this, but apparently we know who's got one of the we know what one of the briefcases are and who's got it, and that is obviously Eddie Edwards. I'm not going to spoil it for everybody. But it does pose the question of who's going to be fired. Now, I instantly had one person on my mind when it started, and that was Steve Macklin. And he, funnily enough, is one of those guys that got a briefcase. But Eric Young has another one. Here's the other one. I agree with you. I don't think it's Trey Miguel. I certainly don't think it's Eddie Edwards now. But Type, which one? Because I was adamant Macklin. But after Eric Young got it, I know he's cleansing and everything like that, but he's not really doing a hell of a lot in TNA at the moment. Could it be that Eric Young's the one that gets fired on Thursday?
Yeah, I am leaning more towards Eric Young. And at the end of the day, right, if they get fired from TNA and they still want to wrestle, right, I guarantee NXT is probably going to pick them up, right, and put them right in the fold. That's my opinion. Or maybe not. Maybe they want to do something different like the independent scene or something. But I am leaning more towards Eric Young because I feel like Steve Macklin has so much more to give for TNA right now. And Eric Young is, getting older. He's not spring chicken anymore. So I could definitely see Eric Young being the one to get the fired.
J Star, with that in mind, are you in agreement of it? Or could Eric Young simply come back as the hometown man too?
So I'm actually, I think it was last week, Ty and I had discussed in our podcast. I was nervous for Steve Macklin. I hands up. I was definitely nervous, especially not seeing him on Genesis and not seeing him on the debut episode of TNA on AMC, and then seeing him win the briefcase. Now I kind of agree with you, Adam, where you have Eric Young doing this whole cleanse thing. I feel like that could play into this whole pink slip that Eric Young might be receiving. But I guess I will stick with my original guess, and I will say that I think it's Steve Macklin. I don't know if they would have come to an agreement on a contract where this is just a one-off. He's going to get fired and he can go wherever he may want to.
It's a big loss, though.
Huge loss. Huge loss.
Yeah. I'm not no disrespect to Eric Young, but if I had to choose out of one of those two, Macklin wins hands down for me. I'd be keeping Macklin in there. But we do have another name to consider, not in TNA now, WWE, and it got really well. He come out himself and said at the end of his contract he's no longer going to be in the WWE, and that is Tommaso Ciampa. J STARR, is Tommaso Ciampa another example? I mean, he was great. He's heel run in NXT, turning on Gargano. The tag team with Gargano was great as well. However, was he another example of he got called up to the main roster and they had zero direction for him? And in the end, it was just like, let's just put him back with Gargano because it's the safest bet, because we really called him up with no real plans for him.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic move that WWE does with these call-ups. I get so nervous about these call-ups from NXT because they are these main stars in NXT, and then they get the call-up because they think it's the right time, but there's no laid out plans for them. And then they just get lost in the shuffle. Absolutely lost in the shuffle. And unfortunately, that's what happens with these larger rosters. I mean, it happens in AEW too. Like, let's be real. You have people signing there, they're on TV for a week or two, and then they're nowhere to be found because they just, if you're not in the main storylines, there's no TV time for you. And yeah, I think it's just a classic case of, unfortunately, it wasn't working. They couldn't find a single story for him. They had, they brought back DIY for a little bit, but then after that, it just started going to shit. And he decided, after this, I'm going to let my contract run out and I'm going to see what else the waters have for me. I would love to see a New Japan Pro Wrestling run for him. Yeah. I think that would be amazing. Hell, I think he would be a perfect get for TNA too. That heel turn on Gargano during Black and Gold NXT will forever be one of the greatest heel turns I've ever seen in my life, with just how everything that played out that way. Unbelievable. So I would love to see New Japan or TNA for the next stop for Ciampa.
I agree with that. I'm going to go one step further though, Ty P, and this is going to be a bit left field, but I do watch it every single week, and I think he'll be a great fit. And I know it isn't going to be a guaranteed contract, but I would love to see Ciampa at least dip his toes in the power station over at NWA as well, just to see how he does over there. But nowadays, though, Ty, because we just mentioned here, the rosters everywhere are stacked. Is New Japan and perhaps an independent run the best option, at least in the short term, for Tommaso Ciampa?
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel like in this day and age, we have a time where, like you said, their rosters are stacked. But if you can, get the crowd behind you, it's just a sure way to the top. And, speaking on what you guys were speaking about before about Tommaso first getting into the main roster, and when they paired him with The Miz, I feel like, the main roster and Vince was always like, or Triple H, like, oh, if you need to learn some promo skills, we'll pair you with The Miz. Here you go. Have fun. And to me, he has a lot to offer as a singles competitor. I think he was stuck, in this run as a tag team, and especially when they gave the tag titles to Wyatt Six, which still, me and Justin spoke about this till our freaking face turns blue. But for them to derail that tag division that was so hot on SmackDown just for the Wyatt Six to take over, just was such a bad taste in my mouth. The competition they had, the Motor City Machine Guns, the Street Profits, DIY, they were rocking on all cylinders. And it was such a shame that they kind of just pulled the rug under that. And I think that could still be feeding families right now if they still let that tag division fly the way it was. But Tommaso saw the writing on the wall. They're not doing anything with the tag division besides the MFTs and the Wyatt Six, and he has a lot to offer. So I think he can go to, like you said, an NWA, a TNA, and I think he can excel. I think he can show people what he has. I think he has the capability. Maybe he wants to fine tune himself again on the indies, maybe, reinvent himself a tiny bit. I don't think he really needs to, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. There was another one I forgot to add to you guys I wanted to talk about. This past week on TNA, we saw the reboot of the system. So we're going back to TNA just briefly here. A good way, Type there, of showing the fans that, hey, they can do, not saying they can do something right, 'cause they do things right. They do some things wrong, let's be honest, but they do things right. And that was a great way of ending TNA this week with the swerve there as well, no pun intended, where they brung in Bear Bronson that we all thought was going to be the only member, but then they kicked out Moose and obviously replaced him with Cedric Alexander. Great move in my opinion for TNA there.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this before on our quick count earlier. We love Bear Bronson. He's a friend of our pod. The man has been on a tear all summer up until this point. He's been doing what he set out to do. He's been hitting his goals, his dream matches, and then doing more. And I think we're going to see a lot more violent side to this new system because what Bear brings to the table is violence, and he's very good at that, and he's super talented. So I'm curious to see. It's a whole, and me and Justin joked about this a little bit earlier, it's a Creative Pro reunion in that group with Brian Myers, with the Bear Bronson. So it's really cool to see. I'm really excited to see this iteration of the system, especially with, I'm not going to mention it, but with Eddie Edwards getting what he's getting, it's curious. It's interesting to see how the system is going to maybe peak in 2026 in TNA without Moose.
Yeah, Justin, do you think it was needed as well? Because it felt like the system was getting to a point where not that it had run its course, but they'd kind of switched from heels to faces, and they were going through that bit. Was the reboot of the system? I think it was perfectly timed, and it was absolutely needed in TNA.
1000%. You need when you're starting, especially on a new station, right? You need your biggest faction to have something happen to them. You need something to change. You need to bring in the eyes. You need these new people. And Ty and I had discussed, we were waiting to see where Bear Bronson was going to show up again. Because, they bring him in. You have all these rumors that he's signing with TNA. We were so happy for him. We discussed with him, like, so happy for him. Then out of nowhere, he's not on Genesis. He's not on the debut. We're like, where the hell is Bear? Bear is a major player. And then, well, I guess they had an idea where Bear was going to be because he was in that main event segment. He is now a new member of the system, and he's going to be a major player. No pun intended with major player and Brian Myers, but he's going to be a major player for TNA now. And it was much needed. It absolutely was needed. Moose will be fine. Obviously, JDC he's done. He's retiring. He's setting sail, and Moose will be absolutely fine as a singles competitor. We've seen him run TNA for quite some time. Let's be real. And now it's just the perfect time to bring in Cedric and Bear, and obviously with Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers. Cannot wait to see what the system can do now.
We will find out this week on TNA. Obviously over here for United Kingdom viewers, TNA Plus. I'm going to plug it because I'm good friends with TNA. So $9.99 a month, 2 cups of coffee a month gets you TNA Plus, and it gets you everything, including the specials, the pay-per-views, and the access to the archive. So you can see people like AJ Styles, who we're going to get to in a minute. So make sure you do get TNA Plus over here, AMC over in the States, like you guys didn't already know, or anybody else didn't already know that. But as you was talking there, Justin, I was looking at your T-shirt, and I thought I'd bring him up because, look, it is Royal Rumble. We're talking surprises. Is that man, in your opinion, going to be in the Royal Rumble this coming Sunday?
No, I don't want to. So it's funny you bring this up because I literally just told Ty maybe 25 minutes ago that as much as I want the surprises, I don't want to get my expectations and my hopes up because then I get crushed. I would love to see this man, Karrion Kross, returning to WWE at the Royal Rumble. Hell, if you look on, I think it's my bookie or whatever. This guy has odds. This guy has odds to win the Royal Rumble. So I mean, Vegas knows something, but I don't know if we're gonna go that far. But I would love to see it. I just don't think it's gonna happen. I would love to see it though. Don't get me wrong.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll keep it. We could see that. We could see the Jericho countdown. We could see a lot of things. Sadly, I'm not. I feel as if Jericho's showing up on the Raw after WrestleMania. That's my prediction for Jericho. I don't think he shows up this coming Saturday. But let's go to somebody who appeared in AEW at least in a dark match this week. The artist formerly known as Baron Corbin, Ty. And look, I always thought he was quite underrated. I love the fact that I think only one person in WWE may have kicked out of End of Days. I think that may have been right, maybe one or two. He was one for me that I thought, to be honest with you, Tom, was destined for TNA. Could it be a one-shot deal, or do you think he would sue AEW?
Oh man, yeah, I was reading up on that too. Like people were saying that he wasn't supposed to be a part of the match, that he was like
Yeah.
just dropping the Big Show off or something. Yeah, I don't see. I'm not the biggest fan of Bishop Dyer or Baron Corbin. I like his stuff on social media when he's
Mm.
cooking his steaks and stuff, but I just was never a fan of his gimmicks. I was never a fan of his stuff in the ring. Not to like shit on him. I think he's I give him all the props in the world for being in WWE, for being a professional wrestler, for now wrestling in AEW. Just his gimmicks didn't resonate with me, especially when he was going through like Happy Corbin, Sad Corbin, Mad Bad shit. I don't know, freaking whatever Corbins he wanted to be.
Yeah.
But I think they'll give him a bigger deal. He's in his prime. He still has much to give. He's a jack dude. I think AEW would be smart to bring him on, even if it was to help push storylines for champions or having entitled defenses. So yeah, I think they should use him. Why wouldn't they? You have a WWE veteran who knows his stuff. So I think AEW should push forward with him.
Potentially. Justin, no, my thing with the TNA, not TNA, sorry, AEW is, and a prime example is Will Hobbs, some big guy who they really should have. I mean, the guy's money, and I don't think like a Will Hobbs fits the narrative as to what AEW. WWE used to have a narrative. You had to be 6'6", six pack, chiseled out of stone. That was the Vince McMahon thing, right? You had to be that. That was what got you over in with Vince's mind. You was like that guy. The narrative for me in AEW doesn't seem to be that. It more seems to be you have to be an athleticism, you have to be able to wow the crowd, you have to be able to go out there and literally set yourself on fire in some cases. But does Bishop Dyer fit the narrative of someone that could be a success in AEW? Or do you think that he may be better off maybe in a TNA and an NWA or just hitting the indies still?
Yeah, for Bishop, it's tough. Like you could see him fit in the right situation,
Mm,
but it also goes back to there's a lot of talent in AEW. And when I
yeah.
say a lot of talent, you just said it, Adam. They have, bar none, probably pound for pound, the best roster in professional wrestling. So if you're Bishop now and you've been off TV for quite some time, you've been doing the indie thing, you have to think what is the best opportunity for me? Is it going to AEW, but then potentially, you sign a year contract, 2 years, but then you're on TV for a month and then you just get lost in the shuffle? Or do you find an NWA? Do you find a TNA where you think you could really fit in and make an impact? No pun intended, like you said. But I don't know. I think he could test the waters again with like another dark match here or there.
Mm.
I don't know if I would fully commit to AEW though. If I was him, I would probably best bet for him would be an NWA or a TNA.
I could see him easily in NWA. I
Yeah.
think he fits that. I look at the Phil Biddy, Silas Masons, and the people like that are in NWA. He kind of fits the bill there as to someone that could come in and act. He could actually do something there rather than, and I think Ty, you just mentioned it, kind of just be like a what I would class as what a Nick Nemeth was in the WWE, just someone to come in to help elevate other people. He could perhaps go to NWA and actually. I'm saying make something of himself because that sounds like he's done nothing in wrestling, but he has. But in terms of where I think he fits better, that would be my choice for him anyway. But look, we'll see what happens. We don't know if he's signed from AEW. There's been no official all elite graphic because they've been going a bit crazy where everyone's all elite all of a sudden over the last couple of weeks. They've been, over here in soccer, over here in the UK, the transfer window is open, and we done a show last week basically saying it was like a soccer transfer window, and AEW were literally just buying everybody up. Tony Khan, obviously, with Fulham over here in the UK, so he's out buying players for them as well. So it was quite a funny thing to see to do that. And AEW flashed up graphics every 5 seconds, but we get to the main talking point of the evening, which look, we mentioned it at the start. AJ Styles Nakamura literally tore the house down last night. It was a great throwback. Styles wearing the mask for the first time in over a decade. Really good sort of like New Japan throwback with a WWE influence into it, of course. But it was more than what happened after this. Now, we all know AJ Styles walks into the Royal Rumble this coming Saturday with a match against the now, I suppose, the now legend killer in a way. I suppose, or the career killer as he's been called in the WWE. I still call him Walter, but Gunther is his name. Nakamura posted, Justin, on his Instagram in a now deleted post. He done a little story there, and he put in the story that he asked AJ Styles if he was retiring on Saturday at the Royal Rumble, and he said yes, or something along those lines. Have they given something away, or have they just thrown it, or has he kind of just done this to throw everybody off the fact? Because we know his contract's coming up as well.
Yeah, this has been the toughest thing for me, right? Me and Ty and myself, I think we spoke about this for almost 15 minutes last episode for us. It's just for some reason it still doesn't sit right with me, right? You hear AJ Styles say that 2026 is going to be the last year of AJ Styles. He is retiring in 2026. I don't think anyone expected it to be in January of 2026. Like I get that his contract is expiring, but I don't know, just it's still not sitting right with me. He was just on TNA. He was staring down that TNA World Championship. You would think that, on this little retirement run, he would get a match or two matches in TNA. He would get one more Mania match. Like we can revisit Gunther down the line. He can still be the career killer. But I just feel, I don't know. And then Shinsuke putting this Instagram story out about AJ saying he's going to retire. Hell, if that's the truth, and then Shinsuke's in some deep crap. If they told him to delete that right now, or are we just working ourselves into another segment of Unreal?
Oh, don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on
I'm Unreal. Just saying it could be. I don't know. I'm still fighting with it. Like when we do our predictions, I know Ty and myself will probably go back and forth saying, do we believe AJ Styles is retiring in January of 2026? Because that's the question. He said he had 1 year left, and now all of a sudden his career is on the line 30 days into the first month of 2026. It just, I don't know. Just something still doesn't sit right with me. I feel like there's something that's going to happen.
Yeah, I hope something happens because you mentioned TNA there, and so I look at I look to him looking at that belt, and I'm thinking, I want to see that one more time. But then you mentioned the guy called Leon Slater, who he come out and he put over, he's Bound for Glory. That match has to happen, Ty, in 20. So we need to get someone out there to, I don't know, get rid of Gunther. We can't have AJ go without a match with Leon Slater at the very least.
Yeah, I feel like, especially how grandiose of a retirement that John Cena had. How does AJ Styles not get the same treatment? He's on the same caliber as a John Cena, in my opinion. So I've had a roller coaster of emotions with this. I felt like he wasn't going to retire with this match against Gunther. I think their match would have went him clean, but then they say, "Oh, we want you to have this match with Shinsuke," and how it happened. I'm like, "Oh crap, maybe he's retiring." But then again, with the post, I feel like it's a work. I feel like why would he go out of his way to post such crucial information of this guy's livelihood, his career, possible retirement? So I think that's a work to get people thinking it's going to go one way, not the other. And so now my mindset is AJ is not retiring. I hope not. because I'm excited for that stuff. I do want to see AJ versus Leon Slater, especially for that X Division Championship. Maybe bring back the old 6-sided ring and do one of those X Division matches. That would be like, I forget what it was called. But those were sick. I would love to see AJ back in one of those. I just there's so much I still want AJ to do in this last year, and it's going to be real bummer if it gets cut short. It really is. So I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping AJ leaves this unscathed, and hopefully it's not in a weird way, and we still have him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I hope so. I can't go out like that. I mean, yeah, Gunter can beat him December. I don't care. He can beat him whenever. He can't beat him now. It's too early. But it makes that prediction. I always say that when we done the prediction league, I said the Royal Rumble would be one of the most toughest ones to predict because men's and women sometimes that changes on the day. So always got that little. That's an interesting one. But now you've got this one. And it's like, do you go with your head or do you go with your heart? Or when you predict that one, and we don't even know what they're going to plan is. But I'll be interested in seeing your predictions this week. I'll be interested in seeing all the other guys' predictions this week. 7-way tie at the top after Genesis, but there's literally 3 points in it, so there's not. It's all to play for as we head into Royal Rumble, guys. We're going to wrap up, but before we do, you guys have got a podcast. You guys are constantly busy. What have you got coming up that we can look forward to?
Yeah, you can go. Well, first off, thank you for having us on the show, Adam. It was a pleasure joining you. We are with Body Slam, partnered with bodyslam.net. You can go subscribe to the bodyslam.net Patreon. It's $5 a month. So 1 cup of coffee. We'll get you whatever, the breaking news information. We have exclusive podcasts that obviously break there before we put them live to the public. And then other than that, we have the 10 Count podcast. You can follow us on all social media, especially YouTube. We have a goal in mind for 2026 for subscribers. It only takes 2 seconds to hit that button for us. It's at the 10 Count Pod on all socials, especially YouTube. And then I'm at J STARR 02 on X. Ty is at TLP_maximum on X. And then we are just live every Wednesday for the 10 Count around 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we're both new fathers, so when we can on Sundays, we get in that quick count on Sundays live.
Well, congratulations being a new father. My boy's nearly 11 now, and it's like,
nice.
I get to the point where as a father, when the kids are like, you're so dependable, they need you to change their diapers, as you guys call it, and they need to do things, and they always ask you. My boy's now just like, yeah, where's the money? Like, I don't care about anything. Just sort out the money. I'm going to do a little bit of what we've got coming up, so apologies, guys. I will try and take a breath afterwards. But coming up this week on the show, so we call a show called Independent Showcase. We bring on some of the independent guys from America, from the UK, from around the world. This week we've got a guy in the UK called Ryan Curran, who's making his debut at a promotion that I work for, and a promotion that the podcast has got its championship with, Ignite Wrestling. He's making his debut there in February, so we'll be interviewing him tomorrow, as well as Danny Limelight will be on the show from the US side of things. He'll be there on Tuesday. Me and my co-host Fiona, head of NWA, will sit down with Crazy Steve, former TNA and NWA guy as well. So that's going to be good. And speaking of NWA, they have the territories. They have Exodus Pro Wrestling. We're talking to somebody who was there this couple of weeks ago in New Game by the name of Handsome Harley, who we called the Timu Ric Flair on the show. So that would be, if you haven't seen him, go and check him out. You will know exactly what we mean. Lil Mars comes on the show as well. She's going to be over in the UK, touring with over here doing some shows, including my good friends at Slam Masters in Wales. This time next week, we'll be back with the Royal Rumble show with another team that's in the podcast prediction league. Wrestling Pedigree will join us there as well. The Chapter 5 preview before Ignite show as well. So go to Eventbrite, type in Chapter 5, get your tickets. There's about 30 left, maybe less than that now. Come and see my championship be defended. Can Aluna make it 4 in a row? Or will Mr. Happy, the bloke that never smiles in promos, Chris Aries, finally get his hands on the championship and become the first ever Grand Slam champion at Ignite? You will see. And then the last thing I can tell you is Independent Showcase will be back. You may have heard or you may have seen Lyra Valkyra. What you may not know is that she has a fiance in wrestling called the name of LJ Cleary. He'll be coming on as well. I'm going to take a breath in a second, but a big thank you to TNA and Tom Hannifan for stepping up just before the AMC debuts, or you can check all of that down in the special guest interviews, where you can see a lot of others: Buff Bagwell, Diamond Dallas Page, Jake the Snake Robertson, so on and so forth. Go and check it all down there. But follow us, HTT Buckle, everywhere. That's it. I'm going to literally say that. And of course, big shout out to W, your taste buds' favorite energy drink, who sponsored the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Type in HTT Buckle in the checkout for 10% off your first order. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking up your day. Thanks for that. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day and your kids' day, really, for coming on. I do appreciate it. Hopefully we'll get some. I got a show called The Top 10. I'd love to invite you onto that and to do that one day as well.
Absolutely.
Let's do it, man. We love doing this. We love chatting with people who love wrestling, especially across the pond from us. So yeah, whenever you guys want to chat wrestling again, we're down.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Guys, go and check out Body Slam as well. Make sure you do go and sign up. As they say, 1 cup of coffee a month gets you all of the insiders, as well as a little hints at the podcast they've got coming up before they hit the shelves, before they hit the YouTube. Showing my age a little bit. But from Ty P, from J Star, I have been your host, Adam Cousins. You have been watching This Week in Wrestling on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, goodbye.